State Senator Dan Patrick is our guest. 4 candidates, strong candidates each, with their own constituencies, well-funded, running strong campaigns. How do you separate when there are 4 candidates, a lieutenant governor who has served a number of years without any real opposition? Now you have a state senator who's also a talk host. You have a land commissioner with his own support group. You have an agriculture commissioner with his own support group. Both of the commissioners, former state senators. It's going to be a tough race. Dan Patrick, why should David Dewhurst not be given another opportunity to serve as lieutenant governor?
Well, Michael, I appreciate his public service. We've agreed together on times, and we've disagreed strongly, like TSA bill would be an example. And I wanted to come back as education chair. I loved it. We have a 40 to 50% dropout rate in our inner cities, and I wanted to continue to take on that challenge. We have to turn that around. We need school choice, continued expansion of charters, et cetera. But as I watched, so that was my game plan, Michael. I'm 63. I've been really blessed in this town for a long time. I was going to serve one more session. I'm a term limits guy. That would have been enough time to move on. But as the session wound down, Michael, I saw a lack of leadership. David missed about a third of the session. And I'm not telling tales out of school here to be negative, but it was a big story. During the pro-life debate the first time, the week before the filibuster, when the bill originally went out, he took the part of the bill out that stopped abortion at 5 months. It was a 3-part bill. One of the bills was mine. Glenn Hager did an excellent job of carrying all 3 bills for us, so we didn't have 3 filibusters, and that was our agreement. And the lieutenant governor took it out of the bill. He said, "Well, the Republicans didn't want to vote for it." As lieutenant governor, you say to those Republicans, "You're voting for this bill," because what that set up, Michael, was when that bill went to the House without that element. Most people don't realize this. That meant the House had to amend it and send it back. And once you sent it back, Michael, it set up the filibuster, which should have never happened.
Total lack of leadership. I got a couple of tough questions. You know what they are, Dan Patrick. I'm going to give you an opportunity to answer them. Sure. It's been all over our airwaves, so I'm going to give you that chance. To the issue of David Dewhurst, Todd Staples' campaign has pointed out that you seem to have endorsed. He plays the interview with Ted Cruz where Ted Cruz says you endorsed David Dewhurst for U.S. Senate. Did you endorse David Dewhurst for U.S. Senate?
4 days before the election, the final round, I stayed out of the first round. If he couldn't get 50% in the first round, then that was his bad. And once he got to the second round, it was pretty clear he wasn't going to win. Not one senator, to my knowledge, endorsed him before the first round. But on the Wednesday before that Tuesday, I did say, because a person asked me on the air who I was voting for, and I've never not answered a question, Michael, and I said I'm voting for David Dewhurst. Todd Staples, by the way, endorsed David Dewhurst and sent a letter out to the Ag Committee for the agricultural community to support David. And, David carried the Ag community. And Jerry Patterson endorsed David Dewhurst and sent out a letter to veterans to vote for David Dewhurst. We all did. I'm the only one since then because I believe Ted has done the kind of job that we need to be done. Ted is in the same kind of grinder that I was when I got elected. No one wanted Ted there. No one wanted me there. I heard your interview with him. It was terrific. He's decided it's more important to represent the people than represent the other senators. And so because of that, I was asked by the media in October, would I support Ted Cruz for president? And I said yes. The other 3 won't answer the question. We need to turn Washington on its head. And Ted Cruz right now, there are a few others up there. Ted Cruz is one of those people who you know what you will get. As you know, I've walked the talk. I've done what I said I would do as a conservative candidate. I've been a conservative senator, and
Dan, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to close at the end. I'm going to let you say everything. Todd, I think it's Todd Staples' campaign. It could be Jerry Patterson's. I get it confused. Okay. Has referred to the fact that you had a bankruptcy, didn't pay those folks back, changed your name, and now you're wealthy. How do you respond to that? They couch it in terms of do the right thing and that you didn't do the right thing.
Yeah, well, first of all, I changed my name. I was asked to change my name in 1977, my first TV job. I used to go by Dan Scott, my first and middle name. They had an anchor named Joe Scott, so they asked me to change it. I picked Dan Patrick. It was my brother-in-law's name. Everyone knew me as Dan Patrick. I found out in 2004, Michael, which you probably know, when you run, you have to have your name on the ballot, your legal name. Well, had I run under Dan Goeb, which is my legal name, no one in Houston would have had a clue who I was. So I put it on the form. When the judge says, "Why did you change your name?" I said, "I might run for office one day, and people don't know my other name." I kept Goeb, by the way, as my middle name. My name is Dan Goeb Patrick, so I wasn't trying to hide anything. Had nothing to do with the bankruptcy. People knew me as Dan Patrick since 1977. That's how I came to Houston. In the bankruptcy, Michael, look, in 1988, thousands of us in Texas went broke. I was in the restaurant business. I had 5 when oil was at $30 a gallon. barrel. I was doing fine at 10. Our business collapsed. It was not a personal bankruptcy, but I was personally liable on some of these businesses. When you declare Chapter 7 bankruptcy, Michael, you give up everything you have. I lost everything I have except my house and a car. You give up everything else, my kids' college savings, everything, and the creditors take it, and you get a chance to start over. And in terms of the debts are cleared by the courts, and most of the money, Michael, almost 70. I'm guessing here. I haven't looked at it in a long time. 70%, 75% were in lease payments. They were leases that were due when the restaurants closed. You sign a 3 or 5 year lease. And within a couple of months, in most of those cases, someone else had moved in and taken those leases. So I lost everything I had. The creditors divided up what I had. I started all over. It was a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, and America allows you to start over again. So,
Dan, last tough question, and then I want to save back 2 minutes for you to talk about yourself.
Sure.
Jerry Patterson, speaking of your restaurant years, refers there was a story Ted Oberg did on 13 that you hired not one, but they suggest a pattern of illegal aliens, which they point to as being hypocritical in light of your close the borders, secure the borders, and no amnesty. Could you take about a minute and a half to respond to that?
Sure, Michael. I'm disappointed. Again, I like Jerry personally. I'm disappointed that he hired private detectives. If that's how you're running your campaign to try to get dirt on your opponents, I don't think people appreciate that. The voters, they want us to talk about issues like school choice, reducing property taxes, securing the border. And so here's what he found after 30 years. He found a guy. And maybe he finds one or two more. I don't know. We had 5 locations, Michael. We had hundreds, not at one time, but over the course of a couple of years before I went broke, employees. It's a very transient business, waiters and people work in the kitchen. And I haven't seen the interview. I'm on the road. I've been on the road, but I'm told what this worker said, and I vaguely remember him of his 30 years. He said that I didn't hire him. A manager hired him. He said that he turned in fraudulent documents. My mother was the bookkeeper, Michael. My mother did the payroll. My mother is 87 and still alive. She's offended by this. My mother's a stickler for the rules. I'm a stickler for the rules. We followed the law. And in those days, I can't remember exactly, in 1984, Michael, I don't remember exactly, but I don't know what the rules were, but we required every person to sign a W-4 and give a Social Security number. So this young man says I was very nice to him. He's made up some other preposterous stories but Michael, if he was illegal and gave us false documents back in 1984, he did. I didn't hire him, and if you say to someone, Michael, that walks into your business then or now, and they give you a Social Security card, and they are Hispanic, and you say, well, are you really a citizen? You could end up getting sued. So it's a phony story. It's a non-story, Michael. We followed the rules. We followed the law. This person said he gave us fraudulent documents, and I didn't hire him. I had managers that did that. So if Jerry wants to run his campaign on that, then that's his decision.
I have 1 minute. I won't interrupt you. When the mic goes off, it's off. Tell us why to vote for Dan Patrick for Lieutenant Governor.
Folks, you have supported me. A lot of Michael's listeners used to be my listeners. He has a lot more than I do these days. I don't know him very much these days, and I'm proud of what Michael's accomplished. You've known me for a long time. Since I'm 63 today, I came to Houston when I was 29. I've raised millions of dollars for charity. We've been a factor in the community. We brought Rush Limbaugh to radio. I say a factor in the community. We're always involved in charities and communities. I've tried to pay back to Texas what Texas has given to me, to my family, which is a great blessing. I ran in 2006, and overwhelmingly you elected me, 70% when people said I didn't have a chance to win. And I said I'd be a conservative leader. I've kept my word. I've been a conservative leader, whether it's in God We Trust in the Senate, under God in the Pledge, reducing the business tax, all the other things that we've done over the years. I'll be your conservative leader as a lieutenant governor. I'll be the first grassroots person ever elected as a statewide official.
That was Dan Patrick, folks.
You've got the Michael Berry Show.